is such a big part of academia, and it is also a part that often gets neglected and never really taught. And if you are a graduate student or a teaching assistant and you are tasked with the responsibility of developing your own syllabus, you could feel in the dark, lost, or like you have no idea how to start. Not to mention, being able to make your own syllabus can be super helpful when you are in the process of applying for grants, fellowships, postdocs, and even when you are applying to jobs on the job market. So before you get to that part of your academic career, let's talk about the basics of making a syllabus so you can make the best syllabus you can for undergraduate students. Now, today's video will be a general overview on how to write a syllabus for undergraduate students. So if you're more interested in more nitty-gritty details of specific sections, leave them in the comments down below, and I will develop some sort of how to build a syllabus series. Now, the first part of a syllabus that you have to have is your course title and course description. And when you are developing your course title, it's important to remember that this is the first thing that students see when they are looking at your class. It is also the first thing that administrators see when they are looking at your class. So you want it to be able to demonstrate or kind of allude to the general arch or focus of your theme while still being catchy and enticing to the people that you are trying to sell your class to, which are your undergraduate students. Your course description should also have that type of focus. You want it to demonstrate the most important topics and themes or major questions of the course so students know what they're getting into, but also allude to some of the assignments, expectations, and general focuses of how students will be evaluated. Now, your course description doesn't have to be a page long. It can be anywhere from 5 to 8 sentences, but what's important is you want it to be inviting to students, but also help students understand what this course is about and what they will be expected to do. This way, as an educator, your students are more likely to be successful, and you're more likely to get students who really want to take the class and thus will be engaged. The next thing that you want to include into your syllabus are learning objectives. Now, some people within academia are not pretty fond of learning objectives, and the main reason that is they either see it as extraneous or not as important, or they think it may be too limiting for their classroom structure. But it's important to understand lesson objectives are actually a guide for your students so they can better understand the expectations of the classroom. So what I like to encourage people to do is to think of their syllabus as less of a contract or just a document, but more as a roadmap for your students to pursue or undergo their educational journey. And so as a result, if we're trying to get our students to a specific end goal, which would be the point of the class, then the learning objectives or the lesson objectives are the instructions or the clear directions that help take your students through the necessary steps to get to that end goal. So major important components of a learning objective is that it needs to be student focused. It shouldn't be talking about what you will do as an educator or what the readings or the course materials will do, but instead, what is it that students will be expected to do and why? And so an easy way to make this happen is by starting off your lesson objectives or your learning objectives with the phrase, students will, and then continue on. The next thing that is a good characteristic of a strong learning objective is that it's using measurable and actionable verbs. So an example of this is oftentimes we may say students will understand these concepts. And while this is student focused, the word understand itself is something that's really hard to measure as an academic or as an instructor. It's also not actionable in the sense that students may not have the same approach to understanding or know how to understand something. So instead, it's important to pick a verb that is very explicit or specific about what are the skill sets or the things that your students will have to do to be able to achieve whatever goal. It's also important to make sure your learning objectives are as clear as possible. So an example of a pretty unclear learning objective would be something like students will understand performance theory. There are a lot of aspects to performance theory, and it's hard again to measure what is understanding or to what extent understanding is. So instead, something else that you may be able to write would be students will be able to communicate through written analysis the importance of identity or the connection between identity and performance. So in that way, your students are able to see that they're going to do a specific thing, which is communicate, how they're going to do that thing, which is through written analysis, and what are the things that they're going to be expected to analyze through written actions, which is identity and performance theory. So learning objectives can feel very daunting, and the first one that you write will probably not be perfect, but it's just important to keep workshopping and working towards building a strong learning objective that, again, is student focused, has measurable and actionable verbs, and it's clear for the students to understand the expectations. Now, depending on your course and your course topic, the next thing that I would include into your syllabus would be a content warning. Content warnings are important if you teach courses that have sensitive topics, because as research has demonstrated over the past few years, is that students that live with trauma or adverse childhood experiences, when they are triggered or when they experience content that is connected to their trauma or experiences, it can have a real psychological and even physiological effect on our students. And so to protect our students that are living with trauma and living with disabilities related to their trauma, we want to make sure that we are creating an environment that allows them to prepare or seek the resources they need to succeed. It's important to remember that content warnings are topic specific and not discipline specific. And that's because even if you're in the STEM field and you're talking about something like gender, transgender students may have experiences with how gender is spoken about that could be linked to traumatic or violent experiences. And so even if our discipline seems objective or seems generally non-controversial, we still want to think who it may impact and how can we best support them in a way that makes working through processing and their educational experience more positive. Now, before I continue on what to include in your syllabus for undergraduate students, I do want to say, if this feels like a lot or very overwhelming, do not panic. In the description box below, I have included a PDF template or sample syllabus that you all can use if you want something visually to build off of. But the next part of your syllabus that you should include are your course requirements. And your course requirements are the most important essential aspects of the class beyond the week-by-week breakdown of the readings. And within your course requirements, you should include the books or readings that students are expected to purchase. You should include not just what your course assignments are, but brief descriptions on what they are about. And again, your expectations. There should also be somewhere in there your class policies, and that may include your policies for office hours, email, late policies, or attendance policies. It's also useful to make sure that you are including not just the grading scale, but the breakdown of your grades, so how much each assignment is worth and how they stack up against each other. Another important part about this section, or just the syllabus in general, is that a syllabus, again, is the roadmap to your student success. So it's not just a contract, it's not just kind of a plain document that doesn't have any meaning, but instead it really does give your students a snapshot of what this class or educational experience will be like. So making sure that your tone is, flexible and inviting and considering of the student and their experience is important to developing a student-centered syllabus. This type of writing also makes sure that your students are actively or feel more comfortable to actively use your office hours or to ask you questions or to engage in class discussion. So even though we may think pedagogically it starts the moment we show up, the reality is for a lot of our students, the syllabus is their first time really getting to meet us. And so how we appear on paper can impact how they are expecting to meet us in person. And so by embedding yourself into your syllabus, you're also helping your students understand who their educator is and what their educational experience is going to be like. The next thing that you would want to include in your syllabus is just on and off campus resources. And these resources can span anywhere from academic resources to, CAPS or like counseling and psychological services. So you want to think again about your student experiences and what type of barriers exist that may impact your students. And then think about what resources that exist on campus that can help your students in that way. And I don't know if you're noticing a theme, but I really do think a syllabus should be student-centered because it is for these students. And so by adding all of these things into your syllabus, the first time you do it, it'll be a lot of work. But after a while, it'll not only be a genuinely good document, but it will be a document that students will be empowered to go back to and reuse time and time again. So it's important to think that this isn't just extra work that doesn't mean anything, but instead it is a way that you as an educator are able to invest and demonstrate that you care about your students through your syllabus and this written document. The next part of the syllabus is actually the part that I think most people already know about, and that is the week-to-week assignment or reading breakdown. And within this assignment reading breakdown, you want to make sure you are including the readings that are expected for each class, the assignments and when they are due, but you also should try to avoid major holidays or build in space for you as the educator to allow for, if there are any campus protests or emergencies that require you to cancel class. It's also really useful if you can think of each week in major themes or major questions. And this helps you as the educator to know what would be the learning objectives for each week, but it also helps students conceptualize what is the point of the class or kind of the focus or the reason they are taking these classes. And it helps them have some teeth in the materials and know again what the expectations are every week. Now, I also include something called a land acknowledgement and statements of solidarity within my syllabi. Now, depending on your political affiliation or the security or safety you feel in your department, you may not be able to include these things. However, I do think they're important when we are trying to demonstrate that we, again, care about our students and care about the struggles or the lived realities that they experience. And so that will be included within the PDF template. But again, based off of your safety, your identity in the space within your academic setting, you may or may not include them. But I do think they're important to bring up because they, again, show that you care about and are in solidarity with your students and the forms of liberation that may be directly related to them. Now, if you're somebody who's still trying to get a handle on this whole teaching assistant thing at universities, I would check out some of my past videos that share my experience as a TA and some of the things that I wish I knew before becoming a TA. If you found this video helpful, definitely leave a like because this will help YouTube share it with other people that may find it useful. As always, your support helps a small YouTuber like me continue to grow. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.